June the 2nd, 2020. We can deal with the minutes, I think, very quickly because they were very, very short for the meeting on May the 19th. Were there any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions to those minutes?
I didn't find anything.
No, well, I mean, it was exceptionally short, so. And we'll entertain a motion then on those minutes. I hear a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Right, motion is made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 5-0-0 on the minutes. I see we still don't have either Patrick or Jim, which is fine.
We could jump forward if you wanted to do the Wicked Teas.
Yeah. What's up with Wicked Teas and CBD and all of that?
Yeah, so I did reach out to the chief, and he said that the interpretation is that it's MDAR or equivalent. So any equivalent must be able to demonstrate documentation that they abide by the same standards of MDAR. So all three companies their growers and processors are licensed by a state agency, and hemp is legal at a federal level. So the USDA does have, I looked it up this evening, they do have rough regulations in place, and they're slowly rolling those out, but it needs to start at each individual state level. So the chief did say that it isn't specifically Massachusetts grown, but equivalent, so licensed by another state, and it needs to make sure that it is tested by an approved lab, and that it needs to have the proper THC levels and pesticide levels. And part of the USDA standards does say it needs to have 0.3% THC or less. So that is a national standard.
Sorry, we just lost Carol, so I'm just trying to get
it. Okay. And
okay.
They can't make any health claims of any sort about it. They can't say that this will,
correct,
cure cancer or whatever it might be. They can offer it for sale, but they can't have any kind of advertising or information that seems to indicate that it can be helpful to you for any medical condition.
Yes, I believe that's correct. I'm trying to look if can't remember if that's specifically in our regulations or if that was
because I do remember seeing something.
That is true. They can't have any medical claims at all.
I do remember seeing something though that seemed to indicate that it had to be grown in Massachusetts or processed in Massachusetts, but if they're now saying that it's MDAR or equivalent, then I guess we'll have to go along with that. So they're open, they're checking IDs, making sure they're not delivering stuff to cars that have kids in it, all that sort of stuff.
They should be, so they're still just curbside. And the guidance does state that they need to be checking IDs, they need to be checking that everyone that's in the vehicle needs to be 21 or over.
I don't know.
Now, in phase 2, will they be allowed to have people in the store?
Yeah, so phase 2, retail is going to be allowed to have, the guidance was released yesterday, I believe up to 40% their occupancy they can have in store.
All right.
So I had a question about CBD MD that your note said that the farms are located in Kentucky, right? Their labs in California and the company in North Carolina. So are they required to get like is with cultivating, for example, be on Kentucky regulations and then
the processing.
Oh.
So it appears to Heritage, the Massachusetts-based company, it appears that they're unique in their process and the fact that they do everything. They do it from the cultivation through the processing.
Right.
It sounds like most companies get their hemp from a farm and then use it either themselves or the processors, or they have a processor, and then they use a lab to sample.
And you mentioned that hemp was legal at a federal level? Because last time I checked, it wasn't.
So hemp in 2018, I believe there's a farm bill that passed, so hemp is legal on the federal level and it's going to be regulated by the USDA.
By the USDA, not DEA, because they don't.
Correct. I think the DEA still looking into it. It has to, the laboratories that test, I think need to be, they also need to have a certain approval, and I believe DEA has some involvement, but it's no longer under DEA's authority because it is now considered legal. But it needs to have a certain THC level, and if it has above the 0.3%, they need to discard that product.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Rachel.
Anything else about wicked teas that we need to be concerned about?
So they're not having anything that's consumed. They're not mixing this CBD in their tea.
They're not doing it. If someone's buying whatever they're buying and mixing it, they're not mixing, like there's nothing for consumption that they're creating.
They just have loose leaf tea.
The
like
customer could add the CBD oil to anything they
Right.
want. But
I mean,
they
is
can't.
anyone else finding this very strange that they started off as a vape shop and now they're selling tea? Like, this just seems very strange to me. That they just changed and now it's tea? It's just
I mean,
strange.
it's definitely a strange thing to transition to, but I mean, the owner has done a lot of work in China and is very passionate about tea. I don't know, what his mindset is for long-term plans, but as of right now, he's technically adhering to the rules and regulations before. There's nothing that we would require for a permit to sell the tea. When Rick and I went in, we kind of scratched our heads at tea. Like, is this like legal tea? Is this tea that's laced with something? But it's just straight loose leaf tea.
Can we just buy like a sample or?
Yeah, like how do we know that it's straight loose leaf tea?
We don't know that.
And it doesn't change like their license or anything, right? They're still licensed as an over 21 vape shop?
Correct, because they still have vape products within the store.
Okay.
Yep.
My
So they
personal-
still are. They can't. He's not planning on. When I spoke with him last week, he's not planning on changing it to be an under 21 store. I did tell him about our cap, obviously, in tobacco permits and how we have 2 for adult only. He's not planning on changing anything. He's planning on keeping the tea, keeping the limited number of vape products that he can sell now with the new June 1st regulations in place, and is not planning on changing the age at this moment.
And my feeling was when we went out that like like Melissa said, he'd done a lot of business in China. He was passionate about tea, and he kind of saw the direction the vape business is going, right? It's become more and more limited. So I think he felt like he needed to add something for him to, I guess, stand out a little bit, but also supplement.
Stay in business, yeah.
All right. And that information with the Ankowitz Environmental Services on West Street, that's just to kind of update us on what they're doing in terms
Correct.
of the
Just their
testing.
completion report after they conducted testing.
Are we going to be joined by either Jim or Patrick?
I don't see them on. I mean, I have no problem giving an update. Since we meet weekly, not much has changed over the last week. We're definitely on the town side. We're working diligently on town meeting as well as the upcoming town election. So town meeting would be held on the 20th of June. Town meeting would be that following Saturday. So just working, we have working groups via Zoom. We're also doing some on-site visits to the field just to determine logistics, the flow of everything, ground markings where needed, making sure we've already purchased adequate hand sanitizer, so individual packages of sunscreen, making sure we have masks available for those that may not have them with them, making sure we have signage in place, and just having a handle on the flow of traffic, as well as enough employees working or being there at the event to kind of help everything work out in a safe manner.
Is there a reopening date for town hall yet?
There's not. A lot of town halls nearby are kind of saying they potentially might not be opening until after the summer. There's nothing that's Walpole has said anything. We're actively going office to office about probably 2.5 weeks ago to actually see who's not 6 feet apart, who is 6 feet apart, what needs to be put in place. Rika has a lovely plexiglass petition that she's in a bubble now. So we can't hear her through it, but she's safe. That's all that matters. So I think
you throw treats over the plexiglass to her.
Exactly. I pretend I can't hear her during the day. So no, I think it's just like protecting each other from one another. As now, we originally were on kind of like a skeleton crew. Now employees will be coming back into the workforce, and then obviously segueing into eventually when the public comes in. So working diligently on that, and just kind of working with phases reopening. So I'd say that we've implemented standard operating procedures on the town side. So this was given to all town employees last Thursday. There is a health questionnaire that's associated with it. So it's kind of just standard operating procedures. When you report to work, you should adhere to all of these. And in addition to that, we are requiring a employee health questionnaire be filled out on a daily basis, and that they report to their supervisor regarding the answers to the questions.
Now, with the potential for outdoor dining coming up next week, how many of our restaurants have the possibility of doing that?
So it's funny you say that. I actually have a Zoom call tomorrow with Ashley Clark, who is in economic development, and then also Mike Yanovich, who deals with zoning through the building department, along with, she's extended the invite to all restaurants who would be interested in participating. So as of now, I think she's only had a handful of interested participants. You're probably aware, I mean, most people would think, well, why wouldn't they want to just, get an outside patio set up? The thing with that is if they don't have the means to do so, so if they don't have, outside patio furniture or things like that, it's obviously a financial burden to do that. You may have already seen, so phase 2 should probably potentially start as early as next week, the 8th of June. And they are saying indoor dining, restricted indoor dining potentially could come into play the end of phase 2. So potentially maybe just a week or two between them. So you may not see as many people trying to implement outdoor dining if it's not feasible for their location.
Beacon's on Route 1 has all kinds of outdoor furniture out.
They do.
Jalapenos, I think, used to have some.
They're interested. Yep.
Had some tables out on the sidewalk. Didn't Raven's Nest have a table or two as well?
They do, and they're interested. I know that they're participating tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see how that all develops.
So we are working closely with the restaurants on that. Guidance has been put out there, and we'll work closely with the restaurants should they have any questions or need further guidance. Trying to be proactive with that.
Okay.
But
anything else that we need to be?
As for, I think I sent you guys the numbers, just the numbers, as you know, if you heard the governor's address, the numbers are looking good. It's 33 consecutive days of a decline. For Walpole specific, we have 246 cases. Of those, 237 have completed monitoring and 9 are undergoing monitoring. So that's the lowest we've seen.
It was just an increase of 6 last time.
Week. Exactly. Yeah. It's still the unknown, because I feel phase 1 we were 2 weeks in. However, I feel phase 1 was very restrictive for the most part. There wasn't much of a change. A lot was curbside, still limited contact. So I'd be curious to see what the numbers bring for phase 2.
Okay.
Anyone knows anything about the travel quarantine, like people coming from other states or
So they're saying that's going to still be in phase 1 as well as phase 2 of the 14-day quarantine period should you leave the state.
Should you leave this state, or should someone come in state? Like
it goes both ways. I think most states have that in place, but the main thing is should you leave the Commonwealth and come back in, our regulations show that they're strongly urging individuals that leave the state of Massachusetts to come back and quarantine
for 14 days. And how would they monitor that?
They don't. It's voluntary. I feel like it's one of those things they're strongly urging you to do so. If we were made aware that someone that we were in contact with was traveling, then we would, urge them to do that. But it's just, you see it all over the highways and everything. We strongly urge individuals to do so. because should they have contracted something on their trip, that 14-day gives them a window to be symptomatic and potentially show that they have COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else that we need to be aware of or deal with tonight?
I don't think so.
Well, unless there is some objection, let's have a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned. We'll see you. Have a good week. We will see you
Bye.
all on Tuesday the 9th.
Perfect. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, guys
Thank
and ladies,
you.
very much.
Take care.